Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. And in this video we want to get back to the really basic things of Aikido, which is the Ashi-sabaki, so the foot movements, or we might also call it tai-sabaki, the body movements. So I will show you and I will explain you the basic footwork that we are using, that we are practicing, and that is then also applied when we are moving in the techniques. Okay, so let's have a look at a few basic movements, basic steps that we are using in our Aikido practice. Now, to be clear, you might find between different dojos different naming sometimes, and the way we are doing these movements may vary a little bit. I will try to get back to it a little bit later when I will be explaining some of the movements. So basically, this is what we do in our dojos, in our community, and this is the way we call most of these movements. So let's start with the first one. We begin, of course, and I will just put up the hakama a little bit so that you can see better my feet. Okay, so now back with the hakama lifted a little bit, pulled up a little bit so we can see better my feet when I do the movements. We begin, of course, in the position hanmi for the basic exercises. And the first one, movement, the first step I want to talk about, it's called Tsugi-ashi. So this is a sliding movement where we don't change the hanmi. We stay always in the same hanmi. Actually, I will slide forward my front foot and then adjust with the back foot, bring it in, staying all the time in the same hanmi. And then, of course, we can move backwards in the same way. So if I do it a bit faster, it might look like this. Okay, so this is the first one. Now, the second movement, it's called Ayumi-ashi. This is a movement where we actually walk almost like in a normal way, where the hanmi is changing with every step. Okay, so I move forward. So I will bring my back foot forward and then adjust the back foot, the new back foot, to be in the hanmi position again. And as we move backward, I want first to open up the heel and then step with the other foot. Now the point here is that as I'm moving forward, the front foot is already pointing in the direction where I go, so it's not really in the way of my back foot moving forward. And one of the things which you might find different in different dojos, it depends on the dojo how people do it, we pay attention actually to not move the front foot or adjust the front foot before we start moving with the back foot. So we try to avoid doing this, like this little preparation before moving in. And there are two reasons basically for this. One is that to do this adjustment, I need to bring my weight a little bit on my back foot, which is slowing me down in the movement then, moving my back foot. And the second thing is that this is telegraphing the movement to the opponent or to the partner. So I want to avoid, actually in our dojo, we want to avoid this adjustment. We want to move directly with the back foot, which is moving forward. Now, in the hanmi, the front foot is aligned in the direction where we move, but the back foot is perpendicular to it. So if I would try to go backwards now, I would actually, like this, I would get my heel of the back foot in the way of my front foot moving backward. And when I arrive backward in the back, I'm actually in the straight cross position, which is not very comfortable, and it hurts the knee actually. So for this reason, when I move backwards, I want to bring up the heel first, open up the heel, so that it creates the space here for moving backwards. And at the end, when I arrive, my foot is already in the good position. I don't need to adjust it anymore. Okay, so we've covered the two ways of basic forward and backward movements. Let's begin now. Let's move over now to the turns. Okay, let's include the turns in the movements. The really basic turn, it's a Kaiten. And Kaiten is simply, I want to change my direction by 180 degrees. So from this position, I will turn my front foot by 90 degrees, and then back foot by 90 degrees, and this way I'm getting in the opposite hanmi that I was before and looking in the opposite direction. And I want to keep my guard in a way this way. So the traditional Aikido guard is with quite low one hand a bit in front, the other one covering the center. And as I'm moving, I want to bring this guard also to the other side. crossing in front of my center. Okay, so if we do Kaiten, we can also combine the Kaiten movement with a movement forward with a slight step forward, which would be like the Tsugi-ashi. And this we would call, in our community, in our dojo, we would call it Irimi Kaiten. So we move forward, turn the foot, and change the direction. Okay, so step forward, directly turning the front foot by 90 degrees, and adjusting the other foot, changing the hanmi in the opposite direction. Okay, so then we go into the more classical Aikido, one of the most classical Aikido turns, which is the Tenkan. Tenkan is also a turn in place, starting with the front foot directly, but then we want to take a back step with a back foot going behind. As I was showing the Kaiten is simply a turn in place without any movement, just turning the feet and changing the hanmi. Tenkan, after the turn of the front foot, by 180 degrees this time, rather than 90, we will step back with the other foot behind. So we have, again, we are facing the opposite direction, but we are still in the same hanmi as we were before. So Kaiten is changing the hanmi, Tenkan is not changing the hanmi, we are just turning around and going behind. Now the way we do it, the Tenkan, and you can also see different ways, is I want to turn my front foot as much as possible, getting a little bit down with my center, getting a little bit, bending a little bit that knee, so that as I come around, I'm almost aligned in the right position. I don't need a lot of alignment of front foot. So if you look from here, I turn it the heel as much as I can, and step behind. Okay, and now going in the opposite direction again, turning my foot as much as I can, so that when I come around, my foot is almost aligned. I might maybe slightly need to move my toes, but not a lot. Okay, and then we can combine again a forward step with a Tenkan, just like we did with the Kaiten before, but this time, instead of moving forward and turning around like this, doing the Tsugi-ashi, we will do the Ayumi-ashi. So the walking forward step. And then again, I go forward. I want to turn my heel, my knee as much as possible, bring the other foot back, and align in the opposite direction. Okay, so this is the most known maybe, and making a lot of fun, for me at least, movement in Aikido, the Irimi Tenkan. Now the hands, as I go with the Irimi Tenkan, the hands are helping with the pivot, and once I finish this, personally, I like to point my front head, the one which is becoming the front hand, I like to point it in the direction where I came from, which is actually helping me to align the body behind. It's like an anchoring point where I have this energy moving in that direction, the spin, the pivot, the energy moving there. If I get an anchor here, it aligns me kind of behind. So this is my image that I have in my head when I do it. Okay, and this way we can move really fast on the Irimi Tenkan and turn always precisely by 180 degrees. So a nice exercise also in the dojo or anywhere you do it is to align with the walls. So I'm looking into this wall. I want to have this wall precisely in front of me now at a 90 degrees angle. And again, 90 degrees and this wall. And you might have noticed, or maybe not, but this time, the last time I did the Irimi Tenkan, I anticipated with the front foot, which we try to avoid, but it's difficult, it's not easy, so here it goes without the anticipation. So there are two more movements, feet movements, that we practice maybe not so frequently, or maybe not even at all during the step exercises or the feet movement exercises, but which are very common in many techniques, so it's also nice to know them and to be able to do them in a more natural way without thinking about it. Getting it into your system, so that when you do a technique, you don't have to think about the feet, but the feet are moving themselves. So they are both kind of changing the hanmi, almost in place, and they are used in different types of techniques. So one of them would be when one hanmi, I would actually bring my back foot forward, close to the front foot, and the front foot would go backwards when behind. And this is a simple change of hanmi. It can be quite narrow. It can be a bit wider, depending on what you're doing. But the idea is that you bring both feet more or less together in front, and when you move backwards, open up the other hanmi. So these movements would be used basically in most of the yokomenuchi attacks when you do a receptive entry or connection with the technique. So when there is a yokomenuchi, you want to do, for example, a Tsugi-ashi. You're changing hanmi, moving to the side, okay, to the other side, other hanmi, changing the angle. The other type of techniques where it's used is the ushiro waza, so attacking from behind, in kinonagare, in movement. So you'd normally, when the uke is entering, you would move to the other hanmi this way, in the same way. Okay, so it's a nice one to practice as well. And then the last one I want to share today, it's also a change of hanmi, but the other way around, starting from the front foot, and then aligning the back foot to become the front foot and being in hanmi again. So this one, for example, is used in the katatedori opening, from the katatedori attack, when you cut out and do an atemi for ikkyo, nikkyo, sankyo, yonkyo, whatever technique you might want to do. So you cut out, align on the uke, and enter with an atemi. So I hope these explanations of basic feet movements that I shared will help you to build up your own routine. Maybe there are some that you didn't really practice. Maybe there are some that are new to you. Maybe you know all of them already. It's always good to practice these movements, and we do it from time to time in the beginning of the class as part of a warm-up or just after the warm-up. The idea is that when you do the techniques and you need to do the steps, you don't need to think about them. So you think about moving your body, connecting with a partner, entering, doing whatever movements you need with the hands, with the body, with the shoulders. But at least the feet are following, and you don't need to think too much how to position the feet, because it's already, the feet movements are in your system. Okay. There's one more thing I want to share at the end. And this is also something I've seen done in a different way in different dojos with different explanations. So in our dojo, in our community, when we move, when we take the steps, we want to lift the feet. Okay, so we don't want to slide on the tatami, making this sound. But when we move, we really, every time we lift the feet. Even the back foot, when it's adjusting, we don't turn it on the tatami, but we will move forward and raise or lift the foot to back foot to adjust it as well. This is maybe a bit different, but then again moving up. And in some other dojos I've trained, I've seen people really sliding the feet on the tatami whenever they move. And there are different reasonings behind it. So one of the reasoning for this sliding of the feet on the tatami I heard is about sensing the ground. If there is any hole in the ground, anything on the ground, whatever, you don't want to step on it, you don't want to fall into a hole without being expecting it and maybe hurt your foot or your ankle. So people would sense the ground when they are moving around. In our community, we consider that sliding the foot on the tatami, especially when you're turning, when you're pivoting, it's adding actually more pressure to the knee and to the leg. So it's not healthy for the body, according to our approach. And this is why we prefer to always lift the feet, move around. So when we get old and still practice Aikido, that we can still practice it without having any pain in some joints or knees or ankles or whatever. So hope you enjoyed the video. Let us know what you think about it, and see you again in the next video soon.